Hello everybody, and welcome to Season 2 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Dynasty series. For those of you that don't know what the Dynasty series is, I'm going to be going through a quick breakdown on what it is about. We have done a Dynasty series for Duelist Kingdom, Battle City, and Season 1 of GX, which was a subscriber Dynasty series. And these series basically are us making a bunch of decks based on the characters that were in that series, using the exact cards they had used in that series, with very little balancing to make sure that the decks are at least playable. And in a subscriber Dynasty series, what we do with those decks is that we have all of my subscribers that follow me on Discord, which will always be in the description of every Dynasty video from now on. Any subscriber that's in my Discord will have a chance to get a character and be in the subscriber Dynasty series and duel each other to see which character was the best of that season. When we did the Duelist Kingdom Dynasty series, it was very surprising who ended up winning. Battle City, it was not the most surprising, but pretty interesting. And Season 1 of GX was a ton of fun with the subscribers. And what we do before the tournament starts for the Subscriber Dynasty series is we go through the deck profiles of each and every character that will be participating in the tournament. Now, usually when we do this, I like to have stats. Now, statistics are very easy for people to understand. That way you can see if you would like a person's deck, because some people didn't watch GX, and I will understand that, even though it's my time frame. It was when I stopped watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Was when GX came out. It was my favorite show at the time, and I loved it. Then I stopped watching after I didn't get to 5Ds, so that happens. So I'm really excited to move on to Season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and the stats that we will be having for this season, I want to give you guys a breakdown of what each of them are, what they actually mean, and how I'm going to gauge the power levels of each character. So, the stats that we're going to be going through are the attack stat. The attack stat is an easy stat to understand. It is the average attack of each monster in a person's deck and extra deck, kind of averaged out between everybody in the entire series. And I give little bits of points, not too many points, but I get little bits of points to a deck that has a lot of equip spells or field spells that buff, or equip traps, whatever the case is. Then we have the speed stat. The speed stat is a very important stat because you need to understand it doesn't simply mean how quickly you can win a duel. The speed stat is specifically for the special summon ability of a deck with the search ability of a deck and the draw power of a deck. Well, moving on to the next stat, we have the skill stat. Now, the skill stat is a debated stat that many people don't seem to understand, but I'm going to break down. For my Dynasty series, skill is based on other win conditions. Other win conditions are you did not simply win by battling. Now, some skill is based on battle, but what I'm talking about is you have other win conditions. Now, that could straight up just mean cards like Destiny Board. If you have a game-winning card, like effect like that, you're going to get a lot of skill points. But mostly what I'm talking about is other win conditions such as decking your opponent out, burning your opponent down with burn cards, stalling your opponent out with healing cards or stall cards, which will eventually end in a deck out, or of course just the basic, hey, I got you because I got the Mighty Exodia and you lost. I mean, that is also a total viable strategy for skill stat. So that is how I factor in skill stat. Burn cards, stall cards, deck out cards, like cards that make you discard from the top of your deck, or even just discard from your hand. I can kind of count that as a skill card. Anything that helps you in that sort of way. That is what we are talking about when we talk about skill. So that is the skill stat. Moving on, we have the defense stat. The defense stat is a very basic stat to understand, not complicated at all. The defense stat is the overall average defense of your cards, and in some cases I add in points for cards that buff defense or give you a turn of survival or give your monster some invulnerability. Now, that's not always the case, but usually that's what I do. So the average defense of your monster is the best, or of your deck's monsters is the best indicator of where your defense stat is going to be. So even if your deck does run a lot of beaters that have beater defeaters with 2,000 defense, if the rest of your cards have like 800 defense, it does bring down your average by quite a bit. But you know, it's all averaged out within every deck, so that's what the defense stat basically is. This season, I have decided to add a new stat, because this stat has finally come up way too often in duels, and it is going to be the luck stat. The luck stat is specifically for cards that have coin flipping effects, excavating effects. Excavating effects means you discard cards from the top of your deck or the top of your opponent's deck, because they actually can be luck based due to your opponent's effects, like dark world, not dark worlds, other stuff like that, but like Penguin Knight, and discarding cards from your top of your deck like Dandelion or something. Then there's also the other luck-based cards, which is dice rolls and cards that will let you re-dice roll or flip coins multiple times. So those are luck-based cards. That is what the luck-based stat is based off of. Overall, most characters in the Season 2 of GX will not be able to get any points on the luck stat, because very few run luck-based cards, but there were enough of them where I kind of had to swallow my pride and add a luck stat. Moving on, we have the final stat I wish to talk about, because it's going to be the most confusing stat for people to see. This stat is the brick stat. The brick stat is something any good Yu-Gi-Oh player knows. Will your deck brick on you? Bricking simply means, oh, I got screwed over because I drew a card that can't be helpful in this situation. This is a brick card. Brick cards can be something like a Polymerization, a Ritual Monster, something that requires other cards to even be activated, something that requires other conditions. Tribute monsters can be considered brick cards. Big tribute monsters can be considered brick cards. Monsters with special summoning conditions can be considered brick cards. Equip spells can be considered brick cards depending on how the deck is built. The brick stat is extremely confusing, and in this new chart that I have going up, the easiest way to determine a brick stat if it's good or not, if you go all the way up and it fills up, like the bar goes all the way up on the brick stat, it doesn't mean the deck is super bricky, it means the deck is super anti-bricky. So I know the logic of it is kind of reversed, but if a deck has a very low brick bar, what that actually means is that the deck bricks so often that you're getting yourself screwed over. You actually want to fill up that brick bar in the top left corner of our little, you know, stats, what is that, a hexagon? Octagon? How many stats are there? Hexagon? Yeah. Our little stat hexagon there. The higher your brick stat is filled up, the better. That means you are not a bricky deck. Just like how in previous seasons, if you had watched previous seasons, if you have a full bar of brick, that means you are not a bricky deck. You're a good deck. The unbrickable. But if you have some bars taken away, or in this case, if you aren't as high up on the meter, that simply means that your deck has possibilities to brick. And if you're very low on the meter, that means that your deck is very brickable, and sometimes you'll just draw dead hands. It happens. But that is the basic stats for this series, and now I think it's time that we go through the deck profiles of each character in the series, which we will be releasing one a day. And today's day is going to be a lot of fun to watch, because it's one of our favorite characters.
This Jaden kid isn't who I expected at all. I mean, he gives useless advice, he can't compute a simple math problem, and to top it all off, he hears voices in his head. I guess it's time to end this duel and move on with my life. Totally you might see it! Yeah! Never say die, got to go!
Hey there everybody, it's me, Casual Cooper, and it's time for us to start talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Dynasty series with our very first character profile of Season 2, Aster Phoenix. Aster Phoenix is one of those characters that I really enjoyed watching in the show in Season 2, because he just strolls into Duel Academy, picks up a bunch of cards from the freaking shop, duels Jaden, and almost beats him with scraps. Our main character almost got beat by scraps, and then, just to make him look as cool as possible, he takes down Zane Truesdale in his first real professional duel, ruining that man's life. Zane, the character that has never been defeated in Duel Academy, at worst has gotten a draw, not counting, you know, oh, Cyrus is gonna die to Camula, ignore that. Aster Phoenix straight up beats him, and he beats him with an elemental hero deck, basically, which I thought was pretty crazy. And guess what? Because he used those elemental hero cards, they are going to be in this deck bricking it up. So Aster Phoenix does use Elemental Hero Sparkman, Clayman, Burstinitrix, and Avian with the fusion of Phoenix Enforcer and Shining Phoenix Enforcer. Of course, he's got Polymerization to do that, and, you know, he's got Hero Signal and stuff, Elemental Recharge, stuff that he used in the show. And because he used so many cards in the show, I did have to leave quite a few out, and yet I still ended up with a 47 card deck. I always try to break down the cards, the characters' decks to 40 cards, and in this case, I could not succeed. They just had too many damn cards to go with. At least Aster Phoenix did. There will be a few other characters that also go over my 40 cards that I try to limit, but we're getting into Aster Phoenix right now, so let's talk about his stats. If you look into the right corner, our stat bar has changed. It's just a hexagon now, which means rather than talking about one stat at a time, we're going to be talking about all the stats all at once, going through each of our, card in his deck, and then finally talking about the potential of Aster Phoenix for winning the Subscriber Dynasty Tournament Season 2, and that potential will be at the bottom left corner of your screen, which right now is left at blank 5 stars. We will see how many stars he can fill. The stars will be given based on how likely he is to do good in the tournament. A character that receives 2.5 stars and up are characters that I believe can win the tournament, but you obviously want to be really high up to have better odds. If a character has at least 2.5 stars, I think that they can win the tournament, and maybe they're a character you should consider wanting to play in the subscriber tournament. Which, by the way, for those of you that have forgotten, just follow me on Discord, and it's in the description if you want to join me, and you'll be able to find a character. No, you can't pick your character ahead of time, you'll just have to wait. So, here we are. We're at Aster Phoenix. We're going to go into his stats. His stats are about to come on screen, and by the looks of it, he's an interesting case. He's a guy who's not too focused on attack points, which is kind of weird because he does get some strong monsters like his Fusion, Elemental Hero Shining Phoenix Enforcer. Phoenix Enforcer is kind of a weak 6-star monster, but that's fine. He has Dasher, which 2100 1 tribute is not great either. It's not terrible, it's not great. Malicious is what tore down his attack stat for being a 6-star with only 800 attack, and Double Dude, 1000 attack, that literally it has 6 stars as well and must be tribute summoned, is really sucky. So, on top of that, he has Dreadmaster, which we don't know the attack. It's just based on what you have in the graveyard or something. I don't remember. He has Plasma, which is base 19, but does get to steal half your opponent's attack points, which means I'm technically forced to go off the base 19. And, of course, he has Dogma, which at least gave him a big buff in attack, because he was going to have one of the lowest attacks in this series. But Dogma buffed him up with that 3400 attack stat. But he is a triple tribute monster, so that's pretty brutal. Looking at his other stats, the stats that he excels at are speed, which is his special summoning ability, and his ability to search. When you look through this deck, he's got fusion monsters, which is automatically special summoning ability. He has draw power, like his Destiny Draw, his Disc Commander. His special summon power comes from Captain Tenacious. It comes from Monger. Doomlord technically doesn't special summon, that's something else. Ignore that. Destiny Hero Dasher, it has the ability to special summon. Once it gets sent to the graveyard. Dreadmaster has the ability to special summon. Double Dude gets to special summon to the tokens. Malicious is a special summoning card. Plasma and Dogma technically count as special summons, so there you go, you get points for that. Diamond Dude is a searcher, not a 100% guaranteed searcher, but a searcher. Destiny Hero Celestial lets him draw 2 cards, so that's really good. He also has Dark Angel, which lets him get more cards back. I actually forgot about Dark Angel, so let me see what it does exactly. Okay, you get to put a normal spell on the top of your deck. That's pretty good. Everybody is going to have Pot of Greed in this series, basically, unless I forgot to give them one, but screw it. If I forgot, then they're screwed. So you don't need to look at that too closely. Graceful Charity, a lot of characters have it, so it doesn't really help as much. They have Search Power, Magical Stone Excavation. They have Search Power with a lot of these cards, and Terraforming especially. Hero Signal, oh my god, this guy's just Search Central. That's why his speed stat is almost maxed out. Compared to a lot of the characters in this series, he's really, really fast, but there are some characters faster. On top of this, his skill stat is also really, really strong because his deck comes with a lot of other win conditions. He could stall out his opponent with Destiny Hero Defender and make them deck out. He has freaking Clock Tower Prison, another deck out card that you could be using. He has stall cards like, or burn cards, I should say, like Destiny Hero Dunker. He has burn cards like freaking Misfortune. There's probably a few more in here, too, that could do a little bit of burn. He has cards that can absorb attack points. Some cards that could do just straight up half their life points, like Dogma. Literally, if Dogma survives the turn during this opponent's next standby phase, they lose half their life points. It's an incredible amount of burn. It's kind of insane. So there are plenty of cards to win this to win the duel. Also, Shining Phoenix Enforcer is pretty good since it increases his attack. But the skill base comes from the fact that he can burn his opponents down or stall his opponents out. That is the skill stat for Aster Phoenix. Moving on to his defense stat, it's actually a little bit around the same of his attack stat. Like, he does have really good defense monsters like Defender, and he has good defense monsters like Clayman, but most of his cards just kind of fall short. It's honestly really sad, but you don't need as much defense to have a higher defense stat, because most characters have a lower average defense stat, therefore you don't need that much to, get a good average. Like, even Destiny or Diamond Dude, 1600 counts as a pretty good defense stat in this season of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. So that's where his defense stat comes from. Luck, he has no luck-based cards. He has no cards that can technically be considered luck-based. They're all cards that you need to have specific effects for. They're all cards that, they have specific requirements. They don't have a luck-based requirement. Therefore, he doesn't have a luck stat. Finally, we can move into Aster Phoenix's brick stat. And Aster Phoenix, this boy do brick. It's a big problem. That's why his stat is so low. This guy bricks way too often. And the reason he bricks is he has a lot of tribute monsters that can't be summoned at all. Triple tribute summon, needs Clock Tower specifically to activate to be destroyed after 4 counters have been obtained. Needs a tribute summon, but if it hits the grave, it's actually not too bad. The rest of these monsters, not too bad, but they're also just very inconsiderate. Polymerizations are brick cards, especially since only 2 monsters fuse, and then they can fuse into that one afterwards, so definitely a brick card. A couple of these spells and traps, I require specific monsters on the field to activate, therefore they are considered brick cards. He has kind of a bricky deck. Overall, looking at Aster Phoenix deck, I am a little disappointed. I would love to say that this character is going to be insane, but he did so much in Season 2. He went from an Elemental Hero deck to a freaking Dreadmaster deck, to a Dogma deck, to a Plasma deck by the end of the 2nd season. Therefore, he gained way too many cards. It made his deck way larger, made him more bricky. His cards are not that big beater. He doesn't have big beaters. He doesn't have big defenders, except for Defender himself. He just lacks a lot of consistency, and that's something you really need in a subscriber series like this. And because of that, despite Aster Phoenix being a fan favorite character, despite all of that, going into his potential, I don't think he has the potential to win this tournament. Does he have the potential to win duels? I think he does. Does he have the potential to win the tournament? I don't think so. Therefore, I'm going to give Aster Phoenix a 1.5 stars out of 5. I know I know it's a sad thing to say. I really do. I'm sorry to all the fans out there. But overall, Aster Phoenix is kind of screwed when it comes to the Season 2 Dynasty Series tournament. If you would like to play this deck, don't be afraid to join us on Discord. No, you can't claim a deck, but you can at least, show that you want to be that deck. And then eventually when the tournament date comes, when all the decks are revealed, you'll be able to try to get the deck and try to represent. Because maybe you can make this deck work. Maybe you can make this deck go all the way. But Cooper's rating is 1.5. So overall, really cool deck, very fast deck, very skillful, can win in multiple, it has multiple win conditions. Its attack, it takes a long time to get the good attacking monsters out. Its defense, you might be lucky to draw one of the 2 defensive monsters, but overall, you're kind of screwed. Either way, this has been Aster Phoenix's deck for the freaking Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 2 Dynasty Series Tournament. At least this was his deck profile. I'll see you all in tomorrow when we reveal another deck that's going to be in the series. They're not just going to be main characters. They're going to be just any characters that appeared in Season 2. However, if their cards don't exist, then therefore I might not have put them in this series. Either way, I hope your favorite characters appear in Season 2 of GX. I hope you all enjoyed the Aster Phoenix little rundown. And I know he's probably pissed at me because his deck's kind of ass.